The FIA has spoken up about the new regulations as they've shared some surprising, worrying facts from the drivers they didn't actually expect in the first place.
Toto Wolff finds himself at the center of one of the most delicate situations in modern Formula One team management, and the decisions he makes over the next few months could very well define Mercedes' trajectory for the rest of the decade. The immediate question he faces is whether to offer long-term contracts to his current drivers, George Russell and Andrea Kimi Antonelli, while keeping in mind the looming possibility that Max Verstappen, arguably the most dominant driver of his era, could become available beyond 2026. On the surface, Mercedes seems to have a solid foundation in Russell, a proven race winner with several years of experience in the team, and Antonelli, a young prodigy who has been fast-tracked into Formula One following Lewis Hamilton's shock departure. Yet beneath that stability lies a storm of uncertainty, intrigue, and strategy that could upend the futures of both drivers. The whispers around the paddock began when reports surfaced of Wolff and Verstappen meeting privately, fueling rumors of a potential collaboration once the next set of regulations comes into play in 2026. Although Verstappen has publicly stated his loyalty to Red Bull and even committed to driving for the Austrian outfit during the new regulatory era, the speculation has not died down. Instead, it has intensified, with many pointing to performance clauses in Verstappen's contract that could allow him to leave Red Bull if the team's competitiveness falters. And with Red Bull's current power unit project, undertaken with Ford, facing questions about its long-term viability, there is a growing belief that Verstappen could explore his options if the team falls behind the likes of Mercedes, Ferrari, and Aston Martin. For Wolff, this creates a precarious balancing act. On one hand, he must keep faith in Russell, who has proven to be an invaluable asset for Mercedes since joining in 2022, consistently outperforming expectations and positioning himself as a potential world champion if given the right machinery. Russell is ambitious, determined, and at an age where he could lead Mercedes for the next decade. He has also made it clear that he wants stability, seeking a long-term deal that reflects both his commitment and his market value. Yet Wolff hesitates to offer such a contract, mindful of the possibility that Verstappen could become available and that Mercedes may not want to lock both of its seats when a driver of Verstappen's caliber is in play. Then there is Antonelli, the Italian teenager who many believe could be the next great star of Formula One. Thrust into Mercedes' senior team earlier than planned following Hamilton's move to Ferrari, Antonelli has shown flashes of brilliance, but has also struggled. Against Russell, he currently sits well behind his teammate in the championship standings, leading some to question whether Wolff may have promoted him too early. The original plan had been to let Antonelli develop in a Mercedes customer team such as Williams, before moving him to the senior squad, but Hamilton's departure forced Wolff's hand. Now, the question is whether Antonelli's struggles are simply part of the natural learning curve for a rookie in a top team, or whether he truly needs more time to mature away from the spotlight. Wolff himself has acknowledged the difficulty of the situation, admitting that while he has great confidence in both Russell and Antonelli, Verstappen's uncertain future required him to at least explore the possibility of signing the Dutchman. He has been transparent with Russell, telling him that while he remains Mercedes' first choice, the team cannot ignore the chance to bring in a four-time world champion if the opportunity arises. Russell, for his part, has handled the situation with grace, saying that the only thing he can control is his own performance on track. Still, the uncertainty lingers, and it is clear that both Russell and Antonelli are aware of the shadow Verstappen casts over their futures. What complicates matters further is the internal debate within Mercedes' leadership. While Wolff sees the potential upside of signing Verstappen, immediate championship contention with a proven driver, the board reportedly remains committed to the team's philosophy of developing and nurturing its own talent. Mercedes has long prided itself on building a sustainable driver pipeline, one that produced Russell and could do the same with Antonelli. To cast aside that philosophy for the allure of Verstappen could send a damaging message to young drivers in the Mercedes Academy, that no matter how hard they work, they could always be sacrificed if a superstar becomes available. Yet, it is impossible to deny Verstappen's appeal. If Red Bull stumbles with the 2026 regulations, as some predict, then Verstappen could seek a new home, and there is no team better positioned to take advantage than Mercedes. The Brackley-based outfit has a strong track record of nailing regulation changes, as evidenced by its dominance from 2014 to 2020, and many believe that history could repeat itself. If Mercedes produces a winning car in 2026, the combination of Verstappen and Mercedes could be unstoppable, much like the Hamilton-Mercedes era that redefined Formula One dominance. For Wolff, the question is whether that potential upside is worth the cost of disrupting his current lineup. The potential victims of such a move are obvious. Russell could find himself edged out if Verstappen becomes available, though many insiders believe Wolff would sooner sacrifice Antonelli, given Russell's established record. However, Antonelli's case is complicated by the fact that he represents the future of Mercedes' driver development program. Demoting him too quickly, perhaps sending him to a customer team like Williams or Alpine, could expose him to rival suitors such as Ferrari, McLaren, or even Red Bull, who would be eager to poach a young talent that Mercedes appeared to have lost faith in. The risk of losing Antonelli permanently could outweigh the short-term benefits of signing Verstappen. Russell, meanwhile, finds himself in a unique position. With his contract talks ongoing, he knows that he is one of the most valuable assets on the grid. Martin Brundle, the former F1 driver and current pundit, has even described him as the most desirable free agent in Formula One, noting that teams across the paddock would line up to sign him if Mercedes falters in negotiations. Brundle also cautioned that Russell must be careful not to undervalue himself, referencing Russell's earlier comments that he would pay to fight for championships, a statement that Mercedes could use against him in contract discussions. What Russell truly wants is security and respect, not to be left vulnerable to Verstappen's potential arrival. Adding another layer of intrigue is the possibility of Russell himself switching sides and joining Red Bull. With Sergio Perez's future far from secure and the so-called second seat curse continuing to haunt Red Bull's driver lineup, Russell could theoretically position himself as Verstappen's teammate in 26. Such a move would be bold, giving Russell the chance to beat Verstappen in equal machinery while simultaneously weakening Mercedes. Though unlikely, it remains a wild card scenario that cannot be entirely ruled out, particularly if Russell grows frustrated with Wolff's reluctance to commit to him long term. Ultimately, Wolff must weigh the competing risks and rewards. Does he stay loyal to Russell and Antonelli, trusting that Mercedes' car will be competitive enough to make them title contenders? Or does he keep his options open, ensuring that Mercedes has a seat available should Verstappen become disillusioned? With Red Bull, both choices come with significant consequences. Choosing stability reinforces Mercedes' long-term philosophy, but risks missing out on the best driver of a generation. Chasing Verstappen could deliver immediate success, but undermine the trust of Mercedes' current drivers and its broader driver development program. This is not the first time Wolff has faced such a decision. His handling of Hamilton's contracts in the past often involved short-term deals with team options, giving Mercedes flexibility in uncertain times. It is believed that he may adopt a similar strategy now, offering Russell and perhaps Antonelli contracts with clauses that allow Mercedes to pivot if Verstappen becomes available. Such an approach would give Wolff breathing room, but it could also leave his drivers feeling insecure about their futures. For young drivers like Antonelli, in particular, that lack of stability could be detrimental to confidence and performance. As the 2026 regulation change looms, the stakes could not be higher. Red Bull's development program faces serious questions, with many insiders doubting whether its new engine project can match the established manufacturers. If Red Bull falters, Verstappen may well look for the exit, and Wolff would be foolish not to consider signing him. Yet the fallout from such a decision could reshape the entire driver market. Antonelli could be lured away by rivals, Russell could defect to Red Bull, and Mercedes could find itself caught in a storm of its own making. For now, Wolff insists that things are under control, reiterating his faith in Russell and Antonelli. While admitting that talks with Verstappen were necessary given the circumstances, he maintains that Russell will be renewed soon, and that Antonelli remains part of Mercedes' long-term plans. But in Formula One, words are often just part of. The game and action speak far louder. Behind closed doors, Wolff and Mercedes' leadership must decide whether their future lies in nurturing the talent they already have, or in seizing the opportunity to sign the sport's most dominant driver. It is a choice that could define not just the fate of Mercedes, but the entire competitive landscape of Formula One for years to come.